Hello guys, welcome to our quick session on how to land a Greenbelt project. So let's get going. Today we have this kind of agenda. So there's three of us talking today, Martin, Yukis, and me. And we're gonna first tell you about a quick recap on the project, what to remember when you're starting it, when you're looking for it. Then on how to sell your project in your current workplace, current company, and then how to land a project outside your current place, or if you're not working anywhere at the moment. And lastly, the Q&A. Martin, are you ready to start our session?
Yeah, so thank you, Mary, for hosting this session. I'm very happy with the initiative to have a little bit of an explanation on how the certification now works in practice. Because I'm assuming that everybody here already did the Greenbelt course, knows what it takes to do the Greenbelt in theory and in classroom. But then in real life, often it's quite different. We have about, on top of my head, 180 Greenbelt certified right now. And that's about 11% of people that do it. And quite often we think that people face challenges in finding a project and getting the project right in the end so that they can get certified and they can also apply the knowledge in practice. So in order to do that, we created new guidelines. That was a long project, but those are public now, and we'll be promoting those further. And they can be found on the LSS website under opportunities and then the Greenbelt requirements. And I will just I'll leave you to read the guidelines yourself. But I want to highlight just a few slides from the guidelines because I always keep getting the same kind of questions back on the answers that we actually put in those slides now. And I just want to amplify those a bit more. So the first slide here is what is actually a Greenbelt project? And we get often the question before people start the project, hey, is this a good project? And then the question I always ask myself, first of all, do we already know the root cause? And is there any indication of the student already stating a certain solution or solution direction? Or that we say, yeah, we're going to do this 5S implementation, or we're going to do that. And then I'm like, well, it's not really applicable for Lean Six Sigma anymore. It's very great work experience. It's definitely affiliated to what we're trying to offer, but it's not in the Greenbelt scope that we try to challenge your students with. So just look at this slide and always think, do we really know the root cause? If no, that's good for this project. And then do we think we already know a certain kind of solution? And so the line in the bottom there, a Greenbelt project should always have an unknown root cause and an unknown solution at the start of the project. But this is a slide that always comes back at the start of a project. Do we have a good project? Is it applicable? So really think that through. And it can be in many kind of directions, but feel free to reach out to the certification responsibles like myself, Miguel, or Panu, or anybody else in the LSS community, because together we know a lot. And we can actually impact a lot of these projects around Europe. Yeah, so the second slide, I think, is also a very important concept to keep in the back of our minds. I think we've seen in the introduction modules and in the closing modules, everybody has seen this pyramid where the videos are Greg are the basics, then we have the Schoology environment where we support the learning with everything we offer there. And then in the classroom, we do these practical trainings and the case studies, exercises that we actually do. But the certification project is also part of that learning pyramid. But that's the thing we actually do in practice in the industry, because that's where the real value of the learning comes from. And therefore, the way we structured the certification in Esteem is that the value is not assessed by Esteem in itself, but it's really assessed by your manager, the person that is actually owning the process that you're improving, or like the manager, it doesn't have to be a literal manager, but the person who's supervising you. They have many different titles, but basically the person that knows the work, you're helping this person. Like that's kind of the dynamic that we're implying there. And they are assessing, hey, have they actually provided me some good value with the tools that we from Esteem gave you in the Greenbelt course? So that's then the final learning that the manager checks off this list. And therefore, we only require one slide summary, but the manager should actually experience this value. And that's how we would expect our Greenbelt candidates to behave, to say, hey, I did these things. You don't have to care about any of the words or Pareto, iChart, Fishbone. They just want to see, okay, we make this step and we do that in a structured manner. And therefore, we are able to provide you this value. And of course, everything I'm saying here is a little bit idealistic, but I think that's the dynamic that we strive to have, because then you really make an impact in Europe, because that's the overall vision of Lean Six Sigma. We develop our students, that's the main part, but also if those students are then able to make an impact in the European industry, that's when we really did our job the right way. So we're still a long way to go, but that's, I think, the spirit in which you should interpret this slide, and that's why I wanted to highlight it. Yeah, so the last, this slide will also be talked about more about Jukes and Mary, but how to then find a Greenbelt project in practice. And it's not that easy, like, I can definitely tell that from experience. I also had a lot of issues with finding my Greenbelt project, but in the end it worked out. As long as you want it enough, it will work. I can definitely say that. I've seen that over and over with several people, several journeys on how they in the end did get their projects and got their certifications and did some very nice work in practice. But then again, to still give you a few quick tips, and then Jukes and Mary will actually take this to the next level, but this is just a slide from the guidelines. Don't use any jargon, but be more open and more broad. It can be done in many different configurations that will actually be talked about now. I think Jukes will talk about how to do that within your current work, and Mary will talk about how to find a job in order to conduct a Greenbelt project. And then, like, really, I think for me, the advice I always give to people, like, use your network. Really ask around, go to your local group, ask career fairs, beg professors, because the network is in the end is what gets you there. In my personal story, I think it was Jukes who connected me to an esteemed alumni that was looking for somebody to help him. And that was very funny because Jukes is in Finland and this guy was in the Netherlands. So that's also how we work in esteem. Then and there's of course offerings from the LSS team with ABB Continental. I really get yourself there and get a hustle, but we're in this team here to help you and to make you grow. And we'll also close off on that a bit further down the line. I think that's the general introduction I wanted to share on top of the certification guidelines that are out there. Read them through, and if you have any questions, please reach out to the certification team on lssinternship@esteem.org. Also, there's a Q&A WhatsApp group. You can go to that via the LSS community and join the LSS certification Q&A. That's a very important one. And just ask help from instructors, because they are often more experienced than you are in finding them. And use your network in that sense to make sure you make those steps and push yourself forward to get those certification, because it's really rewarding to see something that you just learn within a week or a few weekends pay off big time in a company. Cool.
So I was thinking now when hearing all this and we have this slide topic here, that's how to sell a Greenbelt project for a company you are currently working, and this applies also for a company for which you have worked earlier. I would say that it doesn't need to be somewhere you have been just now working, but the thinking we have here is that why it can be easier to sell a Greenbelt project to a company you're currently working with is because you're familiar with the organization, with the processes or some process, with some product or services, and also you are familiar with some problems. So why we have here these some problems is that it's a good starting point for selling a project. If the case is that you want to sell it to your current manager, is this idea that okay, you can have this discussion that I have gone through this course and looking for an improvement project, and I know this, that I have experienced in my work, or we have this issue that people are talking about this, or we have this problem, and would you be interested to hire me for example 2 days per week till the end of the year to solve that problem or part of the problem and improve the process. Then the other angle is that you can try to sell the idea of doing the project inside the company for different people. And if you are within a plant or unit, it can be a development manager, quality manager, operations, or plant manager. And then on the other hand, if the company is a bit bigger, there is some kind of corporate functions, quality, some sort of development strategy, lean, depends a lot. But these kind of different organizations are good to connect or look out and try to have contact with them. And then the question is, what are you actually selling? And in this Lean Six Sigma domain, we are talking about the DMAIC project. And then it depends a lot about the company and the situation, as well as the person inside the company, that what is their background. That if the person is familiar with Lean Six Sigma, that's one case. If the person or company is using mainly Lean, that's very different angle than if a company is only doing Six Sigma or the person is trained in Six Sigma. And why I'm saying that is that their point of view can be very different. That we are doing this Lean thing. I have heard someone saying in one organization who had a Lean background that if our organization starts doing Six Sigma, I will resign from the company. And then if you are very enthusiastic about the angle that, yeah, I have gone through this Lean Six Sigma course and would like to do a project and save money for the company, most likely for the organization, and apply all the statistical tools, that kind of person would not be interested in hiring a student with that angle. If the person or the company has some kind of own approach for systematic improvement, for example, Conway or Ponce production system or Mercedes production system or so on, what they have done is that they have selected particular set of tools, and many of those you are familiar with the Greenbelt course. And then they have some project management approach for different kind of projects, what they have in the shop floor, which they have trained most likely for the team leaders and for the workers and so on. And then they have some systematic way perhaps on solving more complex problems. One tip there is that perhaps if there is someone who is familiar with that company or has worked earlier there or whatnot, it might be a good thing to spar with someone that, okay, what this is actually about and how they could approach or what they most likely think about if I talk about Greenbelt project. So it's very good to understand the background and the environment on how this organization and the company or the organization and the person sees Lean Six Sigma.
Yeah. Could I add a few thoughts on this point? Because
yeah,
I think
definitely.
This is something that I am still struggling with. It's not easy to make sure that you actually talk about the same thing with the other person when you say words as Lean Six Sigma, because they are very different in different places around Europe, actually. So I just started to work in the Netherlands, and the Lean Six Sigma background I got from my team and Greg is quite different than the no, we don't do Lean, no, we don't do Six Sigma talk that I get here quite often. So it's important really to make that deviation to understand, okay, in this organization, how is it applied? I think a few tricks that I learned on how to recognize that is just look up the people on LinkedIn, see what kind of backgrounds they have and how it's stated on their LinkedIn or in their profile, bio, introductions, etc., where you can recognize that. Also, a good trick is if you have the possibility to go on a Gemba walk, that you then see different visual boards to see if it's very lean and very oriented on like reducing waste and how that fits within the company. Or if you walk by a whiteboard and you see like box plots hanging on there and like, oh no, this is what we're focusing on. And then you think, okay, well, the quality department is doing some work in at least the statistical area. So those are a few pointers. and which you can then talk about. And then it's about leveling with the other person that you're talking to. Okay, so what do you think is really necessary? And I think that's what UKAS is about to talk to. But I just wanted to have you help you recognize a little bit how to see these differences and how to then act upon them.
Yeah, those are very good comments. Thank you, Martin. So I'm, of course, perhaps over exaggerating a bit on some topics, but the mainly to get your attention. So in the more generic angle for what is this DMAIC project management approach, we have trained you in STEAM, is that first of all, we need to define and understand the problem, and then we are gathering some data, analyzing the data, and then based on that, understanding possible root cause, and we are using for that these qualitative tools like process maps and so on. And then finding improvements together with the team, hopefully testing improvement ideas, validating them, and then controlling the improvements. And then part of that can result in building a measurement system or part of it, for example, Power BI dashboard or so on. And I have put these in very generic terms, which are more or less the no matter what approach the company or the person knows for solving problems, those kind of things are done in all approaches. Everyone is saying that they want to be fact-based. Many organizations have more data than they are able to analyze. The challenge is that in order to actually solve the problem or understand the possible root cause, you perhaps need to collect some additional data which is not recorded in the system, and that can be part of the Greenbelt project, and many times is. And why I have here this said this, hopefully testing the improvement ideas and validating the improvements, is that in order to get certified, you don't actually need to implement those improvements within your project, because during an internship, it might be hard within this limited 3 months or to get to that level that the organization is actually able to implement those improvements. Although in the best projects that have been done, and it's possible. Anything to add, Martin, or?
I just want to stretch the right-hand side of the slide. I think you put that very well together. Like talking in such generalizable terms that you can then link back to LSS and the way of thinking and the tools that we teach and that whole story flow. But then actually getting people on board with it, that's a challenge on its own. Like that's very difficult. Don't underestimate this, especially if people don't know the similar jargon, the same jargon as you do. And if you think they might know the same jargon, they still might interpret things differently compared to how you have them taught. So I think that's a big hurdle that people face when executing a project and even negotiating about a project.
And why I was asking about the value, what value you can provide for a manager or for an organization with your project, is actually to understand the problem a lot better, collect and analyze data about it, and increase the knowledge of the organization about that process as well as that problem. And then on that process, there will come these improvement ideas. And then the actual saving of money part will come once the manager sees enough value in those improvements ideas, and then they take the initiative and responsibility of improving those. And in general, just one comment about when looking at the discussion about Six Sigma and Lean and so on in LinkedIn, especially the talking about monetary savings is important, but it's kind of it's way to show that actually we have done something very. It's easy to recognize those projects which have saved a lot of money, but there is this other side of doing something which can make company more competitive than just saving money. with these notes over to Mary and how to find a Greenbelt project with an organization you are not familiar with.
Yes, thank you, Jokkis. We're now moving to how to find a project outside your current workplace. This is, at least for me, particularly interesting because usually what you hear with LSS people talking and everyone else talking is that they are working somewhere and that led to the project, whether they did it to their company or then that their manager knew someone else, but it's always linked to your current workplace. So what if you are not working anywhere at the moment, or what if you're working in a place that just you simply cannot do your project there? Maybe they have nothing with lean and you would need that black belt there, or there's something in the way of it. And that's why I'm very eager to tell you more. Let's move on. So how to start looking for a Greenbelt project outside of any like current contacts you have. And actually very many people have said when we a little bit field surveyed and asked where people have done their projects, they did say it's all about contacts. Just like Martin said, and just like Jukki said, it's all about contacts. But you can still find a place without any contacts. And actually, quite many people do their projects as a separate project to another department or another company altogether than where they were right now. And that's very interesting to hear, actually. But here are some tips on what you should try on. First of all, get the contacts, but someone else's contacts. So ask a friend who has already done their project. Maybe you got that friend from your course where you learned the LSS, and ask for the manager's contacts. Maybe you can get to the same place. Maybe that manager knows someone else, but just be brave and start somewhere. You can also go to your university site. Maybe you have a course about quality or something very similar and you have a professor there. Usually people in academics have contacts in industries. And if you, for example, can email that contact and put your professor as a copy in the email, that's just, that might be the trick that makes it. That might be the cherry on top. LinkedIn is very effective, as we all know, but instead of looking for jobs or projects or student part-times, internships, you can also look for people. And if you just put the name of the company and S-Team or Lean Six Sigma, you get results that actually are some way connected. They actually do something with Lean Six Sigma and they maybe even know S-Team. So then you can go directly talk to the right people. They don't need to be the people who will later on be your manager of the project, but at least they know what you're talking about. At least they have some connection to you. Maybe you're both alumni, like Martin got. He is a manager. Or maybe you just find the black belt of the company and then you maybe have a little bit similar jargon going on. So instead of trying to introduce what Lean Six Sigma is to a company as a completely new topic, you can go straight to I want to do my project and my internship here, and you can tell them what you get, what you actually like. You're on the same page, Then, of course, you can try to combine with your thesis. I've heard a lot about this too. Or if you have an obligatory internship in your studies, that's a very good place to try about it. And last but not least is job fairs, especially the university ones. And you don't even need to go there and look for a project, but you can go and ask the firms that, hey, you're working here, you're not Lean Six Sigma Black Belt, of course, you're representing your firm here, so clearly not, but does your firm have something with Lean? What do you know? And this way you can also get a little bit into the firm and get to know the Kone way or Ponsse way and how that specific firm does the Lean Six Sigma, or if they do at all. And you can also get introduced into completely new industries, completely new firms that you didn't even think about. So just go there and talk with them and ask if they know anything, because if the if all the employees of the firm know something about lean, that's usually a very good sign that the company has structured lean ways. So they might have green belts there or black belts on someone that you actually want to do your project with. After you get your green belt project, what we from LSS would like you to do is just contact us as early as possible, not to let us know that you're working on your project, but just for you to actually know that you're on the right track, that you are not doing a project that in the end does not qualify, or you're not working on something that is not the best, just so you can work on it efficiently and we're all on the same page. You fully understand what your project is about and what it has to be about to be certificated, and also that your manager is on the same page. Secondly, remember that you can frame a lot of projects as LSS, even if they don't look like it. So you maybe first think about heavy industries, heavy metals, manufacturing, processes that optimize, like that's very the first thing that you think about. But that's not the only industry you can do your Lean Six Sigma project in. That's not the only place. Currently, there's a lot of lean going on in healthcare, for example, and any service business could also use Lean Six Sigma. And just finding your sweet spot in an industry that you're interested in, even that will be even like, wow, super good. Just don't think that there's no way you can find a project in this industry or this firm, but try to look for it and dig a little bit deeper. Secondly, make sure you know the problem, the actual why measure, the problem statement, what you're doing there. Instead of just optimizing the process, you want to know what you're doing. And this goes with the digging deeper and finding the project in almost any industry. So when you know that you have waste, you have broken pieces, you have wrong reports, and that's the actual thing you're trying to solve, you find a bottleneck that you want to solve, then you're in the good title. This is a good project that you want to work on, instead of just optimizing the process and keep it very like generic and vague. But of course, if you have something that the process needs optimizing, you can just ask some smart questions and find the sweet spot. Where is the why measure? What is the actual beef here, the steak that you're working on? And lastly, what was also on the first slide from Martin, if they already have decided that they are gonna install SAP and do some data analysis, or they are gonna implement 5Ss, that's not your project. There might be a project around it, sure, but if they have something predefined, it's not your project, and look for something better. Yes, this was my take.
Lastly, here's some contacts that you can use with any questions about Greenbelt project or certification, etc. Don't hesitate to contact us. Thank you, Martin and Jukkis, for joining tonight and sharing your knowledge, and everyone else in the audience for listening. I hope you now have some concrete ideas on how to start looking for your own projects. As a final takeaway, be brave to contact, be ready to search in various places, and show the managers that you have the knowledge and drive for a green belt. See you!